Welcome back to Seed Time and Harvest. Today is the day we're going to be putting our plants in the ground. It's really cool outside. There are not a lot of bugs. The mosquitoes are barely out. And it's my favorite time to plant for that very reason. So stay with us. We're going to get our plants in the ground. Here I have a vegetable and herb companion planting chart. Here you'll find a good list of items that you can put in your fall garden that are compatible with each other, along with the herbs that would benefit these plants. It also shows items that are incompatible, so avoid putting these next to the things that you're putting in the ground. You can follow the chart here. As you can see, I'll be putting in a lot of greens in my garden, and the companions are listed. Also, you will find a fall planting chart. There are certain things that you plant in fall, certain things in spring, certain things in summer. But here you have a complete list that you can reference to for what to put in your garden during the fall and winter months. It's the cool season. And with cool season, we have to know, okay, I need cool season crops. Today we're going to be planting cabbage, which is a very cool, hardy veggie to put in your garden. Not only will it live well in the cold into the spring, but you will also get the benefits of having this nice, rich green on your dinner plate. I mean, if you're Jamaican like me, you'll know that once or twice a week, you're gonna have cabbage in some dish or another. And that makes it a great addition to your fall/winter garden. So we're gonna talk about how to plant your cabbage, how to feed your cabbage, and what type of soil your cabbage needs to be able to grow and thrive even in this very harsh weather. So cabbage is a heavy feeder, as I mentioned before, and what that means is cabbage requires a lot of nutrients for it to grow. When you plant cabbage, you have to make sure that you have a lot of well-aged compost in the soil. Your soil is rich with nitrogen and potassium. And I showed you before the type of nutrients, amendments that you can add into your garden before planting your cabbage, and you can even water with kelp, liquid kelp, throughout the growing season to make sure that your cabbage is getting the nutrient it needs, okay? When you consider your soil, you want to make sure that your soil is nicely loose, well loose, and it drains well. If you have a soil that holds water a lot, you'll find that your cabbage will split, your cabbage will rot. So you want to make sure that you have sufficient amount of peat moss and perlite in your soil to make sure that it's well drained. This plant needs about 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight, even though it appreciates the cool season. So you want to make sure that you're giving it the right condition so that the plants will thrive, okay? So I'm going to go in. I have a lot of plants to put in a small space. If you're planting in a square-foot garden, it's 1 cabbage per square. But since I don't have that space, and I usually don't plant cabbage for a head, I plant cabbage for leaves, meaning that I harvest my cabbage leaves before it turns to head, because I prefer the green cabbage. I prefer the green leaves. So since I don't have a lot of space, I'm going to put about 3 plants within 2 square feet, okay? But if you have tons of space, hey, give the cabbage the full square foot that it needs. You will get a big head, especially if you're planting mammoth or giant cabbage. They will appreciate the space, okay? Another thing with your cabbage, some good companions for your cabbage plants are the aromatic herbs. You can plant cabbage with beets. You can also include mint, onion, potatoes, dill, even spinach with your cabbage. You'll find that the aromatic, they will help to repel some of the pests and disease that would otherwise attract the cabbage plant. You also have rabbits and deers that will eat your greens. What we did previous to planting, about a week prior to getting our plants in ground, I just left these plants on top of the raised bed. Basically just making them vulnerable to see if anything will attempt to eat my plants, eat the leaves. And thank God I have not had any damage to my leaves and my plants. So I know they will be safe in this garden. But nonetheless, we may consider putting a fence around our garden in the near future. So I have a lot of plants to put in. Let me get started and then I'll bring you back shortly. Sometimes when your plant starts to die and shows symptoms of dying, nature's way of cleaning up is to send pests and disease, okay? So to prevent our cabbage being damaged by pests, you want to remove any signs of leaves showing that they are damaged or any form of diseased plants. You don't want to put them in your garden. I mean, these will break down, so I'm just going to bury them in the soil. This way you'll have a healthy plant. Therefore, you will not have any pests or diseases being attracted to the garden. So just go ahead, survey your plants, make sure that the leaves are not damaged. If you see any damaged leaves, we're going to go back through and remove those so that we can have healthy plants in our garden. These cabbage varieties that I'm putting in are going to have about a 75-day maturity timeline. Give and take, they have sufficient food for them to thrive. So within 75 days, I should be able to start harvesting my cabbage. Now you have shorter maturity cabbage, like you have the 45-day cabbage. You know, it's up to you, but again, we eat cabbage for leaves, so we can start harvesting the leaves prior to the plant having a full head. However, if you want to have a nice head of cabbage to shred for coleslaw or whatever, that's going to run you about 45 days. So I have 3 different varieties of cabbage I'm going to be putting in. I have the Savoy, which is my favorite. I have the purple cabbage, and then I have the regular cabbage over there. This is the Savoy cabbage. If you've never planted Savoy cabbage, I would suggest you try it. The leaves have more texture than the regular cabbage, and in my opinion, it just, I don't know, it just tastes better. Celery is a good companion with cabbage. It also requires the same amount of nutrients as cabbage, the same watering timeline, the same amount of sunlight, and these would be good addition to your cabbage bed, along with parsley. We're going to put some parsley in here too, because they are a very good companion. If you have other plants that are compatible with cabbage that grows less than that 45-day timeline and you're limited on space, you want to put those in, because if you have something that has a 60-day growing period, of course those will be out of your garden before your cabbage needs that last few months for them to swell and form really big heads. And these are the Utah tall celery that we're going to be adding in here. I'm just going to spread them throughout the garden bed. You can still put a lot of things in a small space and have a successful garden. You just have to know what to put in. You may be wondering, why are the cabbage looking like the leaves are falling over? Well, it's midday. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time early this morning, and this evening is going to be pretty busy. So you want to plant when it's cool out. Even though we're in the fall months, it's midday, still a little warm, but plant when it's cool, early in the morning or late in the evening. You reduce the chance of having transplant shock, and make sure your plants are well watered prior to planting as well. Here we have the final addition to this garden bed, the flat leaf parsley, a wonderful aromatic, great for natural remedies, and an excellent addition to our companion garden setup right here with our cabbage. The next step, we're going to water deeply always. Then I'm going to apply some mulch because we need that moisture to be conserved in this soil. We're going to put our cabbage on a 2-week fertilizer schedule. We're going to water with liquid kelp every 2 weeks to make sure that our cabbage is getting all the nutrients that it needs to grow. All right, so join us next time as we continue putting our plants in our garden. Happy planting, and I hope you love cabbage as much as my family does. Take care.